Yo, what's up, weirdos? Good morning. Good morning. All right, so we got the interview finally from London with Zebek and Science Card. I told you guys we were going to cover this when it came out. Well, here we are. We finally have it, so we're going to play this for you guys. But first, quick shout out to the channel sponsor, Decent Biometric Wallet. Use our link down below, guys. Get a phenomenal deal, 2-for-1 deals on the biometric wallets. You can hold your crypto there in self custody. You can swap, take profits on there, and for as long as you want, you can hold stablecoin on there, and you can stake right on your Decent wallet as well, gaining APY while holding whatever it is, your stablecoin or whatever, right? So get your interest, get your free passive income. Use our link, get a phenomenal deal, guys. Also, for all the new people out there, we have mentorship programs. If you need mentorship from someone who's been through multiple bull runs, we have a phenomenal mentorship program over on the Patreon. We have mentorship coaching calls every day. You can book yourself into some of those. It's absolutely free as a Patreon member. So come aboard, check that out, guys. Again, the link is in the description. We also drop weekly picks and microcap gems, projects like Zebek, XCN, Miria, Nadix, and so many other phenomenal projects that we've made massive returns on, guys. We've helped we've helped 34 people hit 7-figure portfolios just this year, and we're just getting started, guys. The rest of this bull run, it's going to be double digits or triple digits. I mean, it's going to be fantastic. So check it out for yourselves, guys. The link is down below. Get the mentorship that you need. Get in early on these micro cap gems before they pump up 3, 4, 5, 600%. And that's where the real gains are. Without further ado, guys, I will leave you to it. Here's the full interview. It's only about 20 minutes long. Check it out. I will be back afterwards to see what you thought. All right, let's get this party going.
Welcome, everyone. Today we're focusing on Zebek's recent acquisition of Science Card and what that means for the future of mission-driven finance, DeSci, and university infrastructure. I'm joined by Daniel and John, the founders of Science Card, a purpose-built financial platform for the academic sector, serving tens of thousands of users across the UK. Let's dig into the story behind Science Card, what's next under Zebek, and why this matters for crypto adoption, education, and real-world payments. Daniel, John, thank you so much for coming in and joining me today.
Thank you, Ben, for the invitation.
Thank you for having us, Ben.
I guess best place to start is tell me about Science Card. What is it, and why have Zebek acquired it?
Maybe it's helpful to explain why we founded Science Card in the first place. So John and I, we were PhD researchers at universities, and we saw how, the work is very important. Like, it's the birth of invention and helps cure cancer and things that are very important for us and our family. And we saw that there is much more money needed to actually progress. So we were thinking, how can more money flow towards science? And we thought the easiest and a fundamental thing to do in the private economy would be to combine the financial service with the R&D sector. So we came up with a product, Science Card, which was a wallet and a card to allow people to contribute to R&D projects, and also part of fees and earnings will go towards research project to cure cancer, improve air quality, make our lives better, and always with the prospect to deliver to the families the future they deserve. That's we think. And we saw there's a great need. Then we met Zebek, and we saw actually there's a massive opportunity to scale this far greater than we have anticipated. So it was strategically, it's a great combination in the crypto space. It is extremely scalable, and it's a very good product for the people who feel good, but it can also have an impact potentially not seen before, and that's why we were full on board with this deal.
Love that. Anything you want to add, John?
No, I think Daniel described it absolutely perfectly there. It's the inherent need, basically, to service the higher education sector and bring essentially the money closer to R&D. And, through the alignment with Zebek, we have essentially the perfect partner that he's aiming to better integrate and embed itself within the higher education sector, serve the researchers, the students, the alumni, and also the staff of the universities moving forward. So absolutely perfect fit.
Absolutely love that. And this idea of combining access to finance with funding research, etc., is it's a really, really interesting take on it. It's not one that I'd ever seen before I was introduced to you guys at Science Card. Where did the inspiration come from initially, and what long session of brainstorming did you suddenly come up with this notion that it could work to combine these two things?
Yeah, so very simple. We were just thinking which two fundamental pieces can we combine, and then we just said a payment card product where there's a constant money flow has to be combined with R&D. That was very simple. And then I said to John, why is there no science card in the world? And then he said, I don't know. Probably this is one of those things when you build it, then people ask themselves why I wasn't here before.
Yeah, I think just the magnitude of the scenario it can be difficult to comprehend, especially coming in from the R&D space. Your priorities are different as a researcher. You're focusing on getting government funding predominantly.
Yeah.
Not so much, I would say, private investment. And, the ability essentially to match a payments infrastructure that would ultimately de-risk the whole process it's a difficult thing to ask and to imagine. But Daniel did a brilliant job at putting the pieces together, essentially as founder of Science Card. And when he described the concept to me, whilst I was in higher education, I was a researcher, planning essentially to stay on and embed myself as an academic full time. I essentially quit my job very, very rapidly, immediately after the conversation, and didn't look back ever since.
Amazing. And, in higher education in the UK, you guys are working with some of the biggest institutions in this grand old island. Yeah. What is it then about Science Card that you think has drawn them to come and engage with you and actually get involved in Science Card?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And, in my personal opinion, engaging with a lot of institutions up and down this green and pleasant land, I think the focus that we portray in helping fundraise for essentially early stage innovation, this is the main, I would say, draw to a lot of the universities, because it's fundamentally difficult to get funding for early stage innovation through the conventional means. It's highly speculative, and generally speaking, you do need some level of traction when it comes to these scientific ideas before you start getting the bigger commitments that allow essentially the scientific progress to happen. So I would definitely say the platform that we developed within Science Card to essentially create milestone driven early stage research projects predominantly, that was the immediate draw, making that process completely transparent, and essentially also applying that flavor of the fintech landscape into that whole infrastructure through additional services, financial services to the higher education sector is what's highly important and highly appealing.
I think there's a question I can ask in a moment about the future then of the development, etc. Before I get into that, I'm really curious to ask you a question about higher education, universities, and obviously there's a great deal of revenue money that is exchanged through those institutions, right? There are fees, there's student funding, there's property, like paying for halls of residence and rent and all the different things that go into kind of that whole ecosystem in each instance. Do you think higher education might move towards the notion of introducing stable coins as a means of, empowering financial systems in their own ecosystems?
Interesting question, and I think it will make so. First of all, the universities in the UK are massively contributing to the economy. There is roughly more than 10 billion are sent from abroad by university students, international students into the UK. They're contributing many billions to the GDPR and so on. They employ people, infrastructure, construction. So there's massive amount of money in there, and it's really good what they do for the prospect of the country. But now, so stablecoins, I do think that the lowest hanging fruit would be tuition payments from international students from abroad. There could be created great advantages for students, get some discounts, make a bit, get good rates that they then can use also for spending in the country, which come back into the economy. University uses its own stable coin. One would have to evaluate if that's good or too much work, but I think going for an existing stablecoin rail could then allow really ease the flow of money within universities, catering and things like that, nice discount system and things like that. Would have massive benefits.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think just, my 2 cents on that would be, pending the financial regulatory landscape that will be developing in the space, we do see greater appetite in the conversations that we're having with higher education institutions in the adoption of stablecoin payments. Now, I think for us as well, this technology offers the idea of, essentially streamlining certain payment services. Daniel alluded to tuition fee payments, accommodation payments. But, you can also make the accessibility into higher education much more prominent. You want people to have their own personal and family circumstances better reflected in the tuition fee payment system that they make. So you want a tuition fee payment to be able to allow the students and the families to pay these tuition fees, maybe not in a bulk payment,
Sure,
which could hinder access to higher education, but essentially distributed out over terms. Or
one thing we forgot to mention, the transparency added.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
A key concern for Asian students, for example, is they send the money and then there's 3, 4, 5 days they don't know if it will arrive.
right.
And that can be a substantial sum,
Sure,
40,
cross-border
50.
transactions.
So
Yeah.
that leaves families in distress for 5 days. If you would do the transfer of a stable coin, you could track it much more real time and
efficiency savings, right?
efficiency and just relieve pain.
Sure. Yeah, that's really important. I want then to come back to the thing which I get the sense is your real passion, which is this idea of DeSci, right? Decentralized science. Can you give me some examples of this in action and maybe talk to me a little bit more about, what DeSci you guys are actually empowering at the moment and how that's been working?
Fine. I'll just give a crack. So DeSci is very big. You have decentralized data sharing for clinical trials. You have better peer review of journals. You can have replication of studies. Sometimes in science, very good research is published, important findings, but then nobody could replicate them. With DeSci, you could somehow distribute that responsibility. Then the core thing we were addressing was the decentralization of funding science. And probably John wants to add to that something.
Yeah. I mean, that is essentially the bread and butter, basically, of the business. What we want to do through the prism of decentralized science is to make the distribution of funding, of grants. This could be R&D funding, but this could be stipends, this could be bursaries.
Sure.
Much easier and much more transparently, essentially using DeSci as essentially the foundation to this whole argument. So what we've done through the creation of this platform, this payments platform that can help fundraise higher education projects, is that we've brought essentially the public much more close to the actual R&D that takes place. So I mentioned these milestone-driven projects that we described earlier. These are very, very important because, these can be live tracked on the app, and you're allowing people essentially to fund science at a milestone-driven level. This creates a lot of transparency. This creates a lot of excitement, but also creates the additional benefit of making essentially the contribution of the public much more tangible in the science space. And decentralized science, the hallmarks of it are essentially transparency and democratization. So through this type of R&D platform that we've created, we've allowed essentially the democratization of funding to take place en masse, and with essentially Zebek's scalability and added, I would say, firepower, this can really be the reality moving forward. And that's amazing, super exciting, and this is what everyone wants in the higher education space.
Sure.
One thing I would like to add, which the scientists are very interested in the exposure they get. So the awareness is very important. So
of the research that they're carrying out.
Of the research they're carrying out.
Yeah.
And now with Sebek, with the big user base around the world, this can just, a cancer researcher in the UK is fantastic work. It can be just distributed, and the knowledge around the world. It's just the exposure that they're really happy about, and that's actually really decentralizing the knowledge and decentralizing awareness. So I love that. That's a good thing.
And the risk. So through this campaign, essentially, what you can allow is the greater distribution of knowledge in the broader space, and this allows not only the philanthropic elements to be catered for through donations and otherwise, but also through the investors. Maybe a sophisticated investor does want to get into the intellectual property that is reflected in a great piece of science. You do this through a DeSci essentially lens, and you're getting the awareness, you're getting the milestone driven progress accounted for, and essentially then you're de-risking the project for everybody involved, including the universities, which is one of the major blockers that they have in helping fund that early stage research.
Yeah, I think we've touched on a couple of points here, but I guess a question I'm really eager for you guys now, having been acquired by Zebek, etc. I'm curious then, under the stewardship of the Zebek ecosystem, what you're most excited about in terms of the growth opportunity then for Science Card and also that DeSci opportunity.
Yes, so there's the two things we are very excited about. The first thing is attacking the student space.
Yeah.
Prepaid cards with the stablecoin system, making that accessible. Then the second thing is addressing the tuition fee business and market, leveraging stablecoin as well. And then the third thing is exactly what we're talking about, helping the universities raise funding through the Zebek ecosystem, and make those science projects work. So it's just very exciting, and the scalability here is just massive.
Are you able to quantify? And I'm just curious, in the UK, for example, I'm not familiar with the numbers, but in terms of number of students, the size of this prize.
So you have each year around 3 million students in the UK. Of it is around 700,000 international students. Each year, roughly 250,000 new arrivals are coming.
Wow. So
the beauty of students, as from a payment business perspective, is you have every year, you have new customers coming in. So there's always a constant stream. So there's 700,000 international students, total 3 million students in the UK.
Wow.
And together they make a massive payment volume.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a massive opportunity. And so I guess the priority then is to go out and form relationships with more of those universities and acquire more of those students as customers and users.
Absolutely. I think with Zebek, this concept of having a co-branded card with all the possible, financial inclusion criteria, I think, within the product that goes out to the universities, helps not only attract the students, it helps attract the staff, it helps attract essentially also the university itself at some point through treasury management initiatives, which, Zebec is also big on. And then subsequently also the alumni that leave the university, because, just looking at it from a, purely unit economics perspective, we're not just acquiring customers that sometimes hang on for a year or a few weeks. You have the potential of capturing that customer base over a longer period.
Sure.
And through, I would say, Zebek's infrastructure and reach, we're able to create that longevity in a card product that is potentially otherwise missing for the space that we're trying to approach, which is the higher education sector.
Yeah. Hadn't thought of that. It's a great onboarding tool, but then these students, they go on to live long lives and
long prosperous lives,
right? You've been able to onboard them. That's amazing. Listen, guys, this is really, really fascinating. I want to congratulate you both on
Thank you.
Such a great product built. I think it's clear why Zebec has worked with you guys to make this acquisition. I'm really, really excited for you. I want to thank you for coming here and joining me today. Really, really appreciate getting to learn more about you guys as individuals, but also the business that you're continuing to build.
Pleasure's all ours.
Thank you so much for these very interesting questions, and it was great. We enjoyed that. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So here's the thing, guys. Decentralized Science. Also, a quick note: the team of Science Cards, actually, the founders are actually coming on board with Zebec. I don't know if you caught that or not, but they're staying on board. So they're not just buying this product, this company. They're onboarding the CEOs and stuff, like the founders as well. So easy to work with technology when the people who created it are there, right? But Decentralized Science, one of the top narratives that are going to be around in the next couple of bull runs that you're going to want to pay attention to. We talk about it over on the Patreon from time to time. I have been warning everybody that Decentralized Science, or DeSci, will be a big factor in the next bull run as well. So and we're going to find some solid gems under the Decentralized Finance narrative in the bear market that we can accumulate going up into the next cycle. So make sure you guys are around for that. But that is it for this one, guys. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. I'll see you guys in the next one. God bless.